I'm in GT, my brother is Broly. Chapter 171 The horror of Chaosai God increases, the power of the heart equals potential. Under such circumstances, the sound of the entire sky bursting continuously resounded. As time passed, the power of Son Goku and Beerus became more and more intense, and even moved towards outer space as time passed. So strong. Dad and Beerus-sama's battle is very strong. What a terrifying power. Is that the power of Super Saigon? It's unbelievable. 66.99 On the yacht, Son Goku and the others subconsciously exclaimed, and each and every one of them showed a strong look of horror and longing. Although they could not clearly see the battle between the two, but with the power spread out from the aftermath, Son Goku and others also understood how terrifying the power of the battle between the two was. Subconsciously, their fists clenched, and they secretly said, Super Saiyan God. I must complete the transformation of Super Saiyan God. Broly couldn't care less about all of this, and subconsciously looked at Bupa on the side and said, Brother, then Son Goku's power is too strong. How could it be possible to increase so much combat power all at once? He couldn't bear to be surprised. At the moment, he can't keep up with the rhythm of Beerus and Son Goku. It can be said that he has not even been able to know how much the gap between the two sides is. No need to worry. In this regard, Bupa's expression was extremely indifferent, and he said slowly, before Son Goku's basic combat power was strong enough, according to my speculation, the transformation power of this Super Saiyan God is about 600,000 times. About. It's just surprising that Son Goku's basic combat power was only a dozen trillion before. But now it has suddenly soared to more than 2,000 trillion. It seems that the Super Saiyan is far more complicated than I thought. Indeed, the previous Son Goku's rush power was only a dozen trillion. But now it has soared so much. This was absolutely unexpected and left even Bupa somewhat confused as to what was going on. Broly was also dumbfounded after listening to Bupa's story. The rapid increase in combat power from a dozen trillion to more than 2,000 trillion is truly incredible, and it is even puzzling. Mr. Bupa. At this time, Whis on the side suddenly said, Mr. Son Goku's rapid increase in combat power should be caused by absorbing the power of 5 Saiyan hearts. 5. The power of the heart? Hearing this, Bupa couldn't help looking curiously at where Whis was. He has never been able to figure out why Son Goku's strength has soared so much all of a sudden, and now the power of the heart that Whis is talking about seems to be an existence that he has ignored. Subconsciously, Bupa asked, Mr. Whis, could you tell me something? As soon as these words came out, Broly also looked at Whis curiously. He could see that the Whis in front of him was definitely not simple, even stronger than Beerus, because the latter is dressed exactly the same as Carries. The power of the heart is also called potential. In this regard, Whis did not sell anything and said slowly, before Vegeta, Son Goku and others injected their potential into Son Goku. It also resulted in Son Goku receiving the full potential of all 5 of them in an instant. 35. In addition, the transformation of Super Saiyan God is to completely deify himself, so the potential in the body will be fully grasped. 99. This also caused Son Goku's own combat power to soar a bit at the beginning, and then to improve after completing the transformation of the Super Ace God. I see. Suddenly nodding, Bupa instantly understood what the situation was. The potential of Vegeta, Son Goku, Son Goten, Trunks and Xiaofang all add up to Son Goku. He has said before that Son Goku's transformation into a Super Ace God can enhance the potential of Xiaofang in Vidal's belly. In the same way, as the beneficiary of Chaosai God, Son Goku will definitely get a potential boost. Interesting. It's so interesting. In an instant, Bupa's eyes shone brightly. If it's really like what Whis said, then he and Broly have to get involved. Combining the potential of Son Goku et al. To improve itself, Son Goku was able to increase from a dozen terabytes to more than 2 terabytes. This also means that if Bupa and Broly are in the super game, they can use their potential to increase their combat power by more than 2,000 trillion. Coupled with Bupa Broly's current combat power, once it has increased its combat power by more than 2,000 trillion, after transforming into Super Saiyan 4, their combat power will soar again. More than 1,000 Gao battle power. If the Super Ace God is completed, Broly's combat power will at least reach more than 1,000 Gai. At this moment, Bupa's heart was short of breath. At this moment, his eyes were filled with intense heat and yearning, and at the same time, he also began to think about it, whether or not to choose to have the assistance of Son Goku and others from the 7th universe. At least in Bupa's opinion, it would be best to find Broly from Universe 7, Kale from Universe 6, Califera, plus Son Goku and Son Goku. After all, from the point of view of the original work, these 5 people have the strongest potential in Saiyan. Big Brother. 59. Suddenly, Broly seemed to have made up his mind, and then he looked at Bupa and said, I want to become a Super Ace God. At this moment, Broly made up his mind. Son Goku suddenly increased the basic combat power of more than 2,000 megabytes, which is really tempting. And it was because there was an uncertain Xiaofang before. If you call out Son Goku, Vegeta, Son Goku, Son Goten and Trunks, it will be stronger. It is good. Okay. Nodding, Bupa glanced at Broly and said, after the battle between Son Goku and Beerus is over, I'll let them help you complete Super Saiyan God's transformation into a servant. At this moment, Bupa has made up his mind. He could wait a while himself. But Broly couldn't wait any longer. Broly's urgent combat power is only over 1 trillion. Even if the anger state has been increased tenfold, it is completely insufficient for the current situation. Therefore, only when Broly is the first to transform into a super race god can he have the ability to stand on the 7th universe. On the other hand, Bupa himself does not need it. Once Broly completes the Super Saiyan God, he will increase his combat power by at least 2,000 trillion, and after he gets 10 times the return, he can reach 2 Jingduo. At that time, his urgent combat power has reached the level of 2 Jingduo, and in cooperation with the state of anger and Super 4 transformation, it is completely enough to ensure his own safety. Crystal. Chapter 172 Son Goku's defeat, Vegeta's challenge. The battle is over. At this moment, Whis suddenly spoke. Hearing this, Bupa's spirit was lifted and he couldn't stop thinking about anything. Looking up, you can see that in the universe at the moment, Son Goku no longer has the transformation of the Super Saiyan God form. Although they are still fighting with Beerus, they have clearly reached the end of the battle. Sure enough, Chaosai's ability to continue fighting is too bad. Seeing this, Bupa shook his head and said immediately, Broly, the potential enhancement of Super Saiyan transformation is effective for us. But you don't need to insist too much on this Super Race God transformation. Its drawbacks are too great. Cons? What are the drawbacks of Chaosai God? 35. Hearing this, not only Broly, but also Whis, Vegeta and others on the side turned their heads to look at Bupa subconsciously. Brother. Opening his mouth, Broly asked curiously, what are the disadvantages of this Super Saiyan God transformation? Sustained combat capability. Without selling anything, Bupa immediately said, Son Goku and Beerus only fought for an hour or so, but now he is no longer able to maintain the transformation of Chaosai God, which means that the consumption of Chaosai God's transformation is huge. The consumption of physical and divine power is far from what Son Goku 123 can bear. 35. Unless Son Goku has an infinite energy furnace in his body, or he himself becomes a supreme Kyle gods of destruction, under such circumstances, the consumption of the Super Saiyan is doomed to him unable to fight for a long time. I see. After listening to Bupa's remarks, Broly, Vegeta and others were suddenly enlightened. It was a little unclear before, but now they completely understand what Bupa said. Thinking about it carefully, it seems to be the case. Even though the battle between Son Goku and Beerus was fierce, the duration of Super Saiyan was indeed too short. Even if there is the possibility of repair and improvement in the future, its own defects cannot be concealed unless, as Bupa said, hit the infinite energy furnace of the artificial man in the body, or become a real god. I know, big brother. After understanding, Broly nodded heavily and said, I won't rely on Super Saiyan form. I will continue to perfect the power of my bloodline to transform. 39. Nodding in satisfaction, Bupa was also relieved at the moment. He really didn't want Broly to go astray. He doesn't know if Saiyan of the 7th universe can complete the Super 4, but this Super Race God is indeed not suitable for Saiyan. At least not suitable for Bupa and Broly. The only ones who can adapt to him are the two main characters Son Goku and Vegeta. After all, in the original work, Son Goku developed Super Blue and Dark Blue. Even Son Goku completed his Ultra Instinct practice on this basis. At this moment, a scream resounded quietly. Looking at the reputation, Son Goku's figure was seen descending from the sky. At this moment, he was obviously at the end of the game. Goku. Old Sunday 35. Dad. Seeing this situation, Son Gohan and others were shocked. Immediately, without thinking about anything, he jumped up quickly and flew towards Son Goku. Soon, Son Gohan caught the falling Son Goku and quickly took out a fairy bin and put it into Son Goku's mouth. Son Goku recovered a lot after eating Xiandu, but his spirit was also lethargic. The 100 times Kaioken side effects before, plus the current sequelae of Super Saiyan. If it weren't for his firm will, he would have been unable to hold on. Call out. At this time, the figure of Beerus descended from the sky and returned to the deck. Lord Beerus, how are you feeling? Stepping forward, Whis asked with a smile. Not bad. I have 70% of my combat power. After moving his arms, Beerus said indifferently, but this is not the real Super Saiyan God. At least not the guy in my sleep. Having said this, a hint of disappointment flashed in Beerus' eyes. Obviously, not very happy with Son Goku's Super Saiyan God form. Beerus, do you still want to fight a stronger Super Saiyan? At this moment, Bupa stood up quietly, his eyes locked on Beerus and said, a stronger Super Saiyan. Brows raised, Beerus turned to look at Bupa and said, are you talking about yourself? To be honest, Beerus didn't pay attention to the existence of Son Goku, Vegeta, or even Broly. The only thing that made him feel a little curious was Bupa, and even he was sure of the strength of the latter. Bupa is going to challenge Beerus? Is he sure he will deal with the gods of destruction? Vegeta and the others also all looked solemn at the moment, looking at Bupa in puzzlement, their eyes filled with unbelievable expressions. No, with a wave of his hand, Bupa would not act rashly. Even if he is going all out now, even if he can beat Son Goku, he is definitely not a match for Beerus. Thinking of this, Bupa immediately pointed to Vegeta not far away and said, "Let Vegeta also become a super race god." 35. Then let Son Goku and Vegeta fuse, and after they fuse, the strongest fusion fighters will be born. 35. If that fusion warrior is initiating the transformation of Super Saiyan God, then its power is not comparable to that of Son Goku and Vegeta transformed into Super Saiyan. Oh? Hearing this, Beerus raised his brows, and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. If it's what Bupa said, then he's really interested now. A more powerful super race god. Is that enough to threaten you? Thinking of this, Beerus immediately turned his head to look at Son Goku, who had returned, and said, "Son Goku, you are now sending the power of your heart to Vegeta. After turning Vegeta into a super race god, the two of you are doing fusion. In this Gods of Destruction, we have to see how strong your fusion power is." Hearing this, Son Goku was dumbfounded. Vegeta was dumbfounded. Even everyone on the yacht was dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, Bupa's understatement actually made them pay for it. Especially Vegeta. In his heart, he was extremely resistant to fusion with Son Goku, but now facing Beerus' orders, he did not dare to disobey. Master Beerus. After pondering for a while, Vegeta suddenly thought of something, turned to look at Bupa and said, "I can promise to merge with Kakarot and transform into Gogeta and fight against Lord Beerus. But after this battle, I hope to be able to fight with you again." Chapter 173 Super 4 Lure Z Warriors, Super Race God Gogeta is born. Fight with me? Brows raised, Bupa gave Vegeta a surprised look. The latter is trying to find himself to fight, and it is obvious that he was abused by himself before he was not convinced. Okay. However, Bupa agreed without the slightest hesitation at the moment, and then looked at Vegeta and said, "As a price, if you win, I will teach you a superhuman transformation. But if you lose, then all of you have to help my brother Broly finish the race." What? Not inferior to Super Saiyan God's transformation? Hearing this, Son Goku and the others were all startled, then looked at Bupa in astonishment, and said in disbelief, "There's such a transformation ? True or false, and a transformation that is not inferior to Chaosai God?" At this moment, Vegeta and others are all deeply suspicious. After all, they all know how powerful Super Saiyan God's transformation is. If Bupa knows it is not inferior to his transformation, doesn't that mean that they didn't show their full strength before? Even Bupa could, so there's no reason why his brother Broly wouldn't. Broly, in the face of everyone's questioning look, Bupa didn't talk nonsense and waved his hand, "Let them see Chaosai's transformation." "Yes, sir." Hearing this, Broly nodded immediately. He also understands why Bupa is doing this. After all, only Son Goku and others are completely attracted. Only then was he able to set them up, so that they would be willing to help Broly to complete the transformation of the Super Race God. Thinking of this, Broly stepped forward, clenched his fists and said, "Ha!" In the next second, the crimson brilliance shone brightly. Under the stunned gazes of Vegeta, Son Goku and others, Broly transformed into Super Saiyan 4 at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, Broly's chi began to grow rapidly, from the original 1 trillion to 40 Beijing. After doing all this, Broly turned his eyes to Son Goku and others in the arena and said, "How? My big brother didn't lie to you." Gyudu. Hearing this, Son Goku and the others swallowed their saliva and stared at Broly in the Super 4 form, their eyes full of heat and yearning. Although this is not the transformation of the Super Race God, but it is not inferior to the Super Race God. The most important thing is that they can see from Broly's transformation that this form is more suitable for Saiyan. What is this transformation? Subconsciously, Vegeta asked. Not only him, including Son Goku and others. Even Beerus and Whis looked curious. Even if the growth rate of this form is slightly worse than that of Super Saiyan, it is not much different. The main thing is that, from Broly's case, this latter form seems to have the potential to continue to develop. It can be said that the transformation in this form is not inferior to Chaosai God, and even stronger than Chaosai God in a sense. Super Saiyan 4, with an indifferent smile, Broly glanced proudly at Son Goku and the others, and immediately said, "But without my elder brother's guidance, you would never have been able to complete this transformation in your lifetime." This is not Broly exaggerating. The conditions required for the transformation of Super Saiyan 4 are too incredible, and Vegeta and others are completely unaware of the importance of the tale, so Son Goku and others are completely impossible to transform into Super Saiyan 4. Hearing this, Son Goku, Vegeta and the others opened their mouths, and there was a dignified look in their eyes. Not sure, but judging by Broly's confident look, it seems so. Especially Son Goku. He is already a Super 3 full power, but he has no clue about Super 4. It is good. Almost instantly, Vegeta made up her mind. The temptation of Super 4 is also extremely huge for him. No matter what, he must get it. In comparison, helping Broly to complete the Super Race God is not much difficult. As soon as these words came out, Son Goku and others on the side also nodded. After all, compared to the importance of Super 4, the rest seemed to have no meaning. Thinking of this, Son Goku said immediately, "Vegeta, let's start as soon as possible. Help you to complete the Super Race God. We Fusion will fight against Lord Beerus." It is good. Nodding, Vegeta wasn't refusing this time. Compared to the importance of Super 4, the combination with Son Goku is nothing at all. The most important thing is that Vegeta also wants to try to see if the combination of himself and Son Goku can compete with Beerus. 0 for flowers 0. The next second, the figures of Son Goku and others quickly stepped forward and surrounded Vegeta. As the power of the heart began to be injected into Vegeta's body, Vegeta's chi also began to grow rapidly. In a short period of time, Vegeta's chi has increased to more than 2,000 trillion. At this point, a crimson light beam shot up into the sky. For a time, the heaven and earth vision on the earth boiled again, and the terrifying aura continued to pour out. In just a few breaths, Vegeta successfully completed the transformation of Super Saiyan God. However, as Vegeta completed his transformation, they did not fusion, but began to help Son Goku enter the Super Saiyan again. 3 minutes later, Son Goku turned into a Super Saiyan God again under the blessing of the power of the heart. However, since it is not the first time to transform, Son Goku's combat power has not continued to improve even after absorbing the power of the heart. The next second, Son Goku and Vegeta didn't hesitate, stepped forward and came to the area inside the field. Let's start. After looking at each other, Son Goku and Vegeta no longer hesitated, and immediately began to perform fusion dance moves. This scene immediately aroused Beerus' interest. His eyes locked on Son Goku and Vegeta in the field, and he said, "Is this the fusion technique? It looks weird." Hearing this, Whis on the side also smiled slightly, and then said, "Sir Beerus, this is the fusion dance of the people of planet Itrad. Although this dance is a bit weird, it is one of the few fusion methods in the universe, and according to my understanding, after they fuse with each other, their own strength will be multiplied. Maybe their existence after fusion really has the power to fight Beerus-sama." Yes. Hearing this, Beerus was not surprised, but said excitedly, "Then I'm really looking forward to it." 35. Fusion. At this moment, the low growls of Son Goku and Vegeta resounded. In the next second, the index fingers of the two of them touched together. The crimson radiance was bright, the fusion technique was activated, and the figures of Son Goku and Vegeta disappeared, replaced by the figure of the Super Race God Gogeta standing in the arena. Region 7. Chapter 174 GogetaVS Beerus, the Horror Whis panel. It's done. Gogeta. Seeing this, Son Goku and others on the side cheered. Super Race God Gogeta. The latter's power is absolutely terrifying, not even comparable to Son Goku and Vegeta going it alone. What a strong momentum. There's something interesting about this fusion warrior. 35. Seeing this, Beerus' eyes flashed, and he immediately said, "If that's the case, then let me try you." 5. With that said, the figure of Beerus slowly flew towards the air. Seeing this, Gogeta no longer hesitated, and immediately flew into the air to confront Beerus. The next second, Gogeta moved with a sway of his body. He appeared directly in the area beside Beerus, and with a punch, it directly knocked Beerus' body into the air. It is good. 1 2 3 Nice job Gogeta. This scene immediately made Son Goku and others on the yacht cheer. Although there is an element of sneak attack, it is undeniable that the combat power shown by Gogeta at this moment is indeed more terrifying. It is completely inversely proportional to Son Goku, the previous Super Race God, and the two are not at the same level at all. Find a fight. At this moment, Beerus' anger resounded. It can be seen that his body immediately appeared in Gogeta's place, and then the fist in his hand attacked, and the shadow of the fist in the sky immediately covered Gogeta. For a while, screams resounded continuously. It could be seen that Gogeta was hit all over his body. Although it was not fatal, the pain was unbearable for him. After all, Gogeta is stronger than Son Goku and Vegeta, but he is still not the opponent of Beerus. Break me out. Gritting his teeth sharply, Gogeta's whole body exploded instantly, and the next second, he quickly pulled back and avoided Beerus' attack. When his body stabilized, Gogeta kept gasping for breath, his eyes fixed on Beerus. His eyes were full of dignified and uneasy colors. Too strong. Beerus' power is terrifying. This is not something he can match at all, and even the more he fights, the more Gogeta can feel the terror of the latter. Taking it completely is not a level of power, and it should not even belong to a level of existence. Why, is your power just like that? Glancing at Gogeta not far away, Beerus said with a disappointed expression. Although Gogeta is stronger than Son Goku, Beerus doesn't see it as much. In addition, Son Goku, the Super Race God, just gave him a surprise before, which made him quite happy and excited. But now Gogeta's power has not achieved his expected effect at all, not even enough to make Beerus excited again. It's not over yet. 35. Hearing this, Gogeta's eyes flashed with war and grievance, and then roared, 10 times Kaioken. In the next second, the crimson chi around Gogeta's body became more intense by 3 points, and the Kaioken activated 10 times, and his whole person's strength increased 10 times at this moment. Immediately afterwards, Gogeta rushed out and attacked Beerus again, snorting lowly, da. It can be seen that under the control of Gogeta, the shadows of fists in the sky are continuously attacking Beerus, and the attack is like a storm, and Beerus has to dodge defense at this moment. Brother, this Gogeta is pretty good. On the yacht, Broly had a panoramic view of the scene, and said subconsciously, it's much stronger than Son Goku, who was in super racing form before. Hearing this, Bupa smiled slightly. Of course he understood the power of Gogeta. After all, the power of a fusion warrior is not comparable to that of a single individual. Thinking of this, Bupa immediately said, System, check the information of Gogeta and Beerus. In the next second, the information of the two appeared in front of Bupa's eyes. Gogeta, race, fusion Saiyan, bloodline, top bloodline, combat strength, 30 Beijing, transformation, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan, ability, Kaioken, Kamehameha Wave, Final Flash, 30 Beijing combat power. Gogeta after fusion is really strong. With emotion in his mouth, a dignified look flashed in Bupa's eyes. With a blessing of Gogeta and Kaioken, his combat power has reached 18. It can be said that the current Gogeta is comparable to Son Goku and Vegeta in the Super Blue form. Beerus, race, God, combat power, 9,800 streams. Transformation, Gods of Destruction form. Ability, Destruction, Ultra Instinct, Incomplete, Psi, 9,800 Gian basic combat power. 0. After reading Beerus' message, Bupa couldn't help but take a deep breath. With a combat power of 9,800, if Beerus is transformed into Gods of Destruction, wouldn't it have to reach a positive level of combat power? In addition, Beerus will also have Ultra Instinct. Although it is incomplete, it is enough to improve his combat power. It can be said that the ultimate combat power of Beerus is not the announced 10, but has reached 12, which is comparable to the average weak angel. I really underestimate the power of Gods of Destruction. The gap at this level is not something I can make up for in a short period of time. 35. Muttering in his mouth, Bupa's expression changed a few times, and then he subconsciously looked at Whis beside him, secretly said, System, check the information of Whis. The next second, Whis' message appeared in front of Bupa's eyes. Whis, race, angel, bloodline, top bloodline, combat power, transformation, ability, 3 question marks. Is the gap too large to detect? 35. Brows raised, Bupa retracted his gaze and thought deeply. Although I knew Whis' strength was terrifying a long time ago, I didn't expect it to be so terrifying to the point of 0.7. For a moment, Bupa thoughtful inwardly, looked aside Broly and said, Broly, get ready. 35. If nothing else, this Gogeta will soon be defeated. His strength is good, but he's far from Beerus. Yes. 99. Nodding, Broly's eyes flashed with anticipation. He understood what Bupa had asked him to prepare, and it was nothing more than a momentary superhuman transformation. At the same time, Broly is also looking forward to it. Super 4 plus Super Saiyan. This is definitely a powerful transformation ability. Boom bang bang, boom bang bang. At this time, the impact sound accelerated in midair. It can be seen that Gogeta and Beerus are constantly colliding as streamers, and the terrifying power is swept out continuously at this moment. Chapter 175 Gods of Destruction succeeds, Gogeta loses. As Gogeta continued to squeeze out his own strength, his attacks became more and more sharp. But reality is cruel. No matter how much Gogeta roared and attacked, he was still no match for Beerus. Without the joy of seeing the hunter before, the current Beerus is not as soft as before. This also led to the fierce battle between the two sides only going on for a few minutes, and Gogeta was covered with scars all over his body. I do not believe. With a roar, Gogeta looked unwillingly at Beerus in front of him. This kind of defeat, this sense of powerlessness is definitely not what he wants to see. Immediately afterwards, Gogeta suddenly pulled back, and after pulling away from Beerus, he immediately joined his hands and roared, Came. 35. Card 9. In the next second, the Kamehameha wave carrying the full power of Gogeta swept out, aiming directly at the area where Beerus was. Tips for carving insects. However, Beerus at the moment is extremely indifferent. Just glanced at the attacking Kamehameha wave, raised a hand and successfully resisted it. 20. Immediately afterwards, Beerus said indifferently, Destruction. Click. The sound of shattering resounded, and the Kamehameha wave carrying Gogeta's full power was instantly destroyed by Beerus. PFFT. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and Gogeta was caught off guard, and his whole body was hit hard in an instant. The power that had been continuously feeding into the Kamehameha wave came to an abrupt end at this moment, and a rapid movement began in his body causing him to be injured. How is this possible? The Kamehameha wave was destroyed like that. One hand, no, one finger actually destroyed the Kamehameha wave. 55. 35. On the yacht, Son Goku and others exclaimed. Everyone was stunned by the situation in front of them, and at the same time, their hearts were also filled with astonishment and disbelief. It was Gogeta's all-out attack, and it was Gogeta's all-out attack. But now it has been destroyed by Beerus with one finger. How huge is the gap between the two sides? Big brother opening his mouth. Broly was also horrified at the moment. Is this Gods of Destruction Beerus really so powerful? I felt threatened with death just by Gogeta's blow, but he destroyed it with a single finger. At this moment, Broly's whole person is not well. Although I knew the horror of the powerhouses of this universe from Bupa's mouth long ago, but Broly doesn't think it will be much stronger, at least not without the power of a battle. From Son Goku, Vegeta and others, Broly also confirmed his conjecture. Even though Son Goku and others are stronger than him after completing Super Saiyan God transformation, Broly still believes that he can catch up with each other in a short period of time, or even surpass them. But what about now? It was astounding and unimaginable that Gogeta, who had almost no confidence in him to deal with it, was no match for a single finger of Beerus with all his strength. Broly doesn't have to be. Seeing this, Bupa immediately frowned, and then scolded. Although Beerus is powerful, he is not invincible, and Gogeta isn't as weak as he's shown. His strength is something that even Beerus has to value. The reason why Beerus is so tyrannical is because Beerus has completely lost his previous playful mentality. This is what his real strength should look like. 35. As for the means of destroying the Kamehameha wave, it belongs to the special ability of Gods of Destruction. As long as it is touched by him, it can be destroyed. Even universe can be destroyed. Naturally it is not something that the mere Kamehameha wave can stop. As soon as these words came out, Broly suddenly trembled. If it's what Bupa said, it doesn't seem as scary as he imagined. For a time, the awe and fear that had arisen in Broly's heart also dissipated at this moment. Since Beerus' method of destroying the Kamehameha wave is due to special abilities rather than strength, Broly doesn't think he will be weaker than him in the future. Thinking of this, Broly immediately said, "Thank you for the guidance, big brother." Nyan, I will definitely work harder to cultivate and become stronger. 35. Nodding with satisfaction, Bupa glanced at Broly on the side and said, "It's good to be able to stabilize. The most important thing for you now is to complete the transformation of the Super Ace God, thereby increasing the basic combat power by at least about 2,000 trillion. 99. After your basic combat power reaches 20,000 trillion, neither Son Goku nor Vegeta will be your opponent." "Yes, sir." Nodding, Broly looked solemn, and at this moment he has completely calmed down. Ended. At this time, Beerus in midair had no intention of continuing the fight after one blow. Stepping out, Beerus' figure appeared behind Gogeta, and without hesitation, a knife attacked Gogeta's body. With a bang, Gogeta's eyes turned white, and under the attack of the huge force, he was directly unconscious at this moment. At this moment, Gogeta's body was split into two, and the figures of Son Goku and Vegeta, who were sluggish, appeared. "Lord Beerus, you are really strong. Even me and Vegeta are no match for you." With a forced smile, Son Goku looked at Beerus with admiration. That bottomless strength simply makes Son Goku yearn and yearn for it. Not only him, but also the Bbook 127 tower on the side. He clearly felt the strength of Beerus, and the little thought in his heart was extinguished. At the same time, Vegeta's heart also has a strong and stronger mind at this moment. Beerus is horrible. That terrifying power, that power that makes people feel powerless, is the ultimate goal of their pursuit. Taking a look at Son Goku, Beerus said indifferently, "I have to say, your Gogeta after fusion is good for him. His strength has really reached the point where I can use 70% of my strength. But now he is still too weak." 35. Son Goku, Vegeta, the two of you should work hard to become stronger, and I hope that the next time I fight with that Gogeta, he can force me to exert all my strength. After speaking, Beerus didn't linger any longer, turned around and galloped towards the yacht. Although Gogeta's strength did not meet his expectations, Beerus had to admit that the opponent's potential was full. As long as you give it a certain amount of time to grow, maybe you can really reach the point where you can beat yourself in the dream. Did you only use 70% of your strength? What a terrifying Gods of Destruction. On the other hand, Son Goku and Vegeta were crying and laughing at the moment, and after looking at each other, the two of them also galloped towards the yacht weakly. Chapter 176 Vegeta's Challenge. Call out. Call out. With the sound of breaking through the air, Beerus, Son Goku and Vegeta returned to the ground one after the other. After floating to the ground, Beerus shook his arms and said, "Bupa, you're right, Gogeta after fusion has indeed made me more active. However, it's still far from the Super Race God in my mind. Why don't you transform into a Super Race God and try it with me?" Saying that, Beerus stared straight at Bupa with a glimmer of anticipation in his eyes. He could feel that Bupa's strength was definitely incomparable to Son Goku and Vegeta. If he can complete the transformation of Super Saiyan God, maybe there is a stronger possibility. No need. Glancing at Beerus, Bupa refused without hesitation. "I don't have the desire to become a Super Saiyan yet." 35. And even after completing the transformation of Super Saiyan God, I am still not your opponent, Beerus. 35. So, if you and I want to fight, we can wait for a while, definitely not now. For Beerus' invitation to fight, Buppa refused without hesitation. Joke. He knew very well how huge the gap between the two sides was. So under such circumstances, he had absolutely no need to fight with him. At least Buppa didn't want to fight this kind of non-victory existence. Also, in this regard, Beerus gave Buppa a deep look, and then said, "Then I will wait for you for a while. I hope you can really reach the point where I can do my best." After speaking, Beerus didn't have the intention to say anything. He walked to the side area and sat down and continued to eat and drink. Fortunately, Boomer brought a cook this time, and the things that had been eaten before have now been replenished again. Call out, call out. At the same time, Son Goku and Vegeta also flew back to the yacht. Gohan, bring 2 fairy bins here. After he floated to the ground, Son Goku spoke immediately. Yes, Dad. With a promise, Son Gohan did not dare to neglect, and quickly stepped forward and took out 2 fairy bins and handed them to Son Goku and Vegeta. Gudu. Son Goku and Vegeta also recovered from their injuries after Xiandu's belly. Immediately afterwards, Vegeta's eyes followed Buppa not far away, and he said with full fighting intent, "Buppa, the next is our battle." 35. Saying that, Vegeta's eyes were full of desire at the moment. Although it failed to transform into Gogeta before, Vegeta has also experienced the power of Super Saiyan God. It is because of this that he desperately wants to use this power to defeat Buppa at this moment. Only by completely defeating it can Vegeta be able to be ashamed and get the Super 4 transformation skills. As long as it can complete the transformation of Super 4, then Vegeta is sure to catch up with Gods of Destruction Beerus. It is good. Looking at Vegeta, who was full of fighting spirit, Buppa's expression was extremely indifferent at the moment. Give you half an hour to fix it. Otherwise, at that time, someone may say that this king is not a force. Hearing this, Vegeta was furious. Buppa's remarks seemed to him to be completely provocative and disdainful of himself. But Vegeta didn't run away directly. He really needed to repair his emotions. After all, the previous defeat had a huge impact on him, especially Son Goku. After these 3 battles, his expression has been sluggish to the extreme at this moment, and it is impossible to restore it without repairing it for half a month. Thinking of this, Vegeta was no longer stubborn, and immediately sat cross-legged and began to repair her own situation. Seeing this situation, everyone in the arena did not bother. Son Goku also walked to the side area to rest with the help of Son Gohan and others. Soon, half an hour passed. Standing up, Vegeta gasped in an instant, and his whole body was clearly full of energy. Kakarot. 99. When her condition recovered, Vegeta turned her head and looked at Son Goku and the others in the side area and said, "Help me transform." It is good. When Yan, Son Goku and others did not refuse. They are also extremely eager for the Super 4, and this gambling fight between Vegeta and Buppa can be said to be the hope of all of them. Immediately, the 5 Son Goku stepped forward and injected the power of their hearts into Vegeta again. Along with the radiance of Crimson, Vegeta also directly transformed into a Super Race God form, and his combat power soared to the point of 120 Gai. After completing the transformation, Vegeta looked at Buppa proudly and said, "Buppa, come on. This prince will defeat you today." As soon as these words came out, the eyes of everyone present also turned to where Buppa was, including Beerus also showed curiosity. For nothing else, Buppa hasn't shot from the beginning to the end, but it also gives people an unfathomable feeling. Beat me. Really outrageous. 35. With an indifferent smile, Buppa glanced at the proud Vegeta, then slowly stepped forward and said, "If that's the case, then let you see how huge the gap between you and me is." Stepping out one step, Buppa became angry, and the figure instantly grew to a height of more than 3 meters, and the combat power also reached the point of 1.2 Beijing. Immediately afterwards, Buppa stepped out in the second step, with a red radiance all over his body, and immediately launched the Super Saiyan 4 transformation. In an instant, Buppa's chi soared, and his combat power directly reached 480 Gai, almost. After completing the Super 4 transformation, Buppa did not continue to orate, but raised his head and looked at Vegeta not far away. "Come on, Vegeta. Let this king see how capable you are as Prince Saiyan." 35. Sigh. What a terrifying breath. Gotazao. This power is simply incredible. Superscript 16. 99. This scene directly made Son Goku and others exclaimed, especially in the distance. Videl and others shouted subconsciously at this moment. He has grown so much in one fell swoop. The height has suddenly increased to more than 3 meters, which is incredible. Who the hell is this Buppa? Saiyan still has this ability to grow bigger? 66. 99. Gogeta. Swallowing her saliva, Vegeta stared at Buppa, who was like a demon at the moment, and said with a horrified expression, "Who are you? How could Saiyan have such a transformed form? You and Broly are not Saiyan at all. This is not a power that belongs to Saiyan." There was no room for Vegeta not to panic. At this moment, he could clearly feel that Rao was transformed into Super Saiyan God, but he was still not the opponent of Buppa in front of him. Chapter 177. Chuan Chao's bloodline is exposed. The Tower of Tyranny and Tragedy. Not just Vegeta. At this moment, including Son Goku and others, also showed suspicion, and they were all puzzled about Bupa's transformation at this moment. If the transformation of Super 4 is Saiyan's bloodline evolution, then Bupa has suddenly grown to more than 3 meters, which is unbelievable. HMPH, what do stupid people know? With a cold snort, Broly spoke first. My eldest brother and I are the legendary Super Saiyan. In fact, you ordinary Saiyans can be compared. As soon as these words came out, the audience fell silent. The legendary Super Saiyan. Saiyan is also strong and weak. Whis. 99. Subconsciously, Beerus looked at Whis and said, does the legendary Super Saiyan really exist? This Bupa and Broly are the legendary Super Saiyan? 35. Yes, Lord Beerus. Nodding his head, Whis said thoughtfully, there is a rumor circulating within Saiyan that a Super Saiyan will be born every 1,000 years. This so-called Super Saiyan refers to the legendary Super Saiyan, who have stronger blood and strength than ordinary Saiyans. From the current situation, Bupa and Broly are indeed the legendary Super Saiyan. Hearing this, Beerus nodded thoughtfully. There really is a legendary Super Saiyan. No wonder he feels that the cloth 127 pascals, Broly and Son Goku, Vegeta and others are different. What a joke. The legendary Super Saiyan, how could this exist? On the contrary, Vegeta has a grim face at the moment, and her eyes are full of disbelief and unwillingness. He also heard Broly's words and knew more clearly that the legendary Super Saiyan really existed. After all, as a former Saiyan prince, he can also know some Saiyan secrets. But all along, he just thought that the legendary Super Saiyan was the form they are now transformed into. But now it doesn't seem to be the case at all. At least the power shown by Bupa in front of him is definitely not something Saiyan can accomplish. Nothing is impossible. Glancing at Vegeta, Bupa looked indifferent, raised his hand and hooked his finger. Come on Vegeta. Don't think you can be unscrupulous if you become a Super Race God. Super Saiyan 4 is the transformed form of Saiyan's true bloodline power. The so-called Super Saiyan God may not be inferior to the Super 4 transformation, but there is still some gap in essence. As soon as these words came out, Vegeta was instantly furious. He never believed Bupa's words, and he didn't want to believe what he heard. Ha! With a loud shout, Vegeta's chi instantly became violent, and then she stomped on the ground and rushed towards Bupa. In the next second, Vegeta's figure appeared in the area in front of Bupa. Death to me! With a low growl, Vegeta's fist swung wildly, aiming directly at Bupa's face. It's up to you. Bupa didn't take it seriously, and suddenly reached out and grabbed the fist that Vegeta attacked. In an instant, Vegeta's attack was cracked, and even one hand was imprisoned and could not be drawn. Damn, let me loose. Eyes widened, Vegeta burst into tears and tried to struggle with it. However, no matter how much he exerted his strength and acted, he still couldn't break free from Bupa's shackles. This also caused Vegeta's face to turn red, and subconsciously raised another hand to attack Bupa. Too slow. Seeing this, Bupa's eyes flashed, and without hesitation, he immediately took 3 steps back. With a violent pull of his right hand, Vegeta's attack was instantly broken, and even his entire body almost fell to the ground. It was at this moment that Bupa shot out brazenly, raised his left hand into a fist and slammed it down directly on Vegeta's back. With a loud bang, Vegeta screamed, "Ah!" In the next second, its figure smashed to the ground. The entire yacht vibrated, and the endless waves of the surrounding sea swept out. Vegeta, Uncle Vegeta, Ka. Seeing this, Son Goku and others in the arena exclaimed. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them, never expecting things to go this way. You know, this is just the fight. But Vegeta has been completely suppressed now, without even the slightest resistance, which is simply incredible and unbelievable. Most worried are Bulma and Trunks. They couldn't accept Vegeta's defeat so quickly, and they were even more worried that Vegeta would have an accident because of it. It's impossible. However, at the moment, after a short breath, Vegeta's expression turned hideous. Roaring wildly in his mouth, the chi around Vegeta became violent, and the power of the whole person also ran away quietly at this moment. Dare to resist. In response, Bupa smiled coldly, stepped forward, and stepped on Vegeta's body. In the next second, Bupa's powers directly compete with Vegeta. Accompanied by the low roar, it could be seen that Vegeta struggled several times to stand up, but Bupa's feet also stomped him on the deck and couldn't move. Even no matter how it erupted, it was difficult to move. Click. Suddenly, a sound of broken bones resounded. At this moment, Vegeta's low roar stopped abruptly, the whole person's eyes were round, and the scarlet aura that spewed from his body gradually began to dissipate. In a short while, Vegeta's whole body withdrew from the state of Super Saiyan God, lying on the ground constantly panting like a dead dog. Vegeta. Seeing this situation, Son Goku and others were completely anxious. They could all see how bad Vegeta's light cough was at the moment, and immediately rushed forward. Mr. Bupa, Vegeta has already lost. Please show mercy. 359. Mr. Bupa, please be merciful and stop attacking Uncle Vegeta. He can't hold on anymore. Hearing this, Bupa raised the corner of his mouth, glanced at Vegeta who was like a dead dog on the ground, and smiled lightly. Vegeta, you are defeated. Saying that, Bupa raised his foot and turned away without even looking at Vegeta, who, seeing this, Son Goku and the others on the side were relieved. Fine. Luckily Buppa didn't kill him. Otherwise, today Vegeta is absolutely certain to die. After looking at each other, Son Goku and Son Gohan quickly stepped forward to help Vegeta up. Immediately afterwards, Son Gohan took out a fairy bin and put it into Vegeta's mouth. Uncle Vegeta, eat the fairy bin quickly. Your back and internal organs have suffered heavy damage. Only Xiandu can repair your injury. Chapter 178 Broly Super Ace God. Buppa's strength is greatly improved. Brother, congratulations on your victory. Broly stepped forward and said proudly. Broly never doubted Buppa's victory over Vegeta. After all, Buppa was an invincible existence in his mind. It's just that Buppa was able to defeat Vegeta in such a crushing manner this time, which still made Broly shocked and even yearned for it. Just a little thing. With a wave of his hand, Buppa said indifferently, I just completed the Super Ace God transformation. He is not enough to fight me. If it wasn't for Broly, your basic combat power was too low. You could easily kill him in seconds. 99. Hearing this, Broly also had a smile and a look of anticipation on his face. He can remember that he will be transformed into a Super Ace God after that. Just now he has seen that Super Saiyan transformation does not have to be Super 4 and stronger, so he is more determined on the Super 4 transformation route. But becoming a Super Ace God can increase the basic combat power of more than 2,000 trillion, which is definitely what Broly needs at this stage. Thinking of this, Broly said immediately, Brother, when I finish the Super Ace God, I will surely crush them easily. Hearing this, Buppa also smiled slightly. As a super bloodline, once Broly's basic combat power reaches more than 2,000 trillion, he can display his rage state. At that time, it is really not Son Goku, Vegeta can compare. Most importantly, Broly will follow Beerus to learn Gods of Destruction. With the guidance of Gods of Destruction, Broly's strength is bound to soar rapidly, and even fully exert the potential and advantages of the super bloodline in the body. Cough cough. At this moment, a coughing sound came. Looking at the reputation, you can clearly see that Vegeta's injury has recovered after eating the fairy bin. But even so, he has been seriously injured. Even if Xiandu recovers his injuries, it will take almost a month to recover. Vegeta, how are you feeling? Seeing this, Son Goku breathed a sigh of relief, and quickly asked, what's wrong? Kakarot. Hearing this, Vegeta glanced at Son Goku, and his expression was a little decadent at the moment. Without him, it's too hard to accept the crushing defeat of Buppa. Even if Gogeta loses to Beerus, it is acceptable to Vegeta, even reasonable. But he has clearly transformed into a Super Ace God, but he is still not Buppa's enemy of unity. The gap is huge. Alright. Seeing this situation, Buppa didn't want to waste any more time, glanced at Son Goku and the others and said, Vegeta, according to the previous agreement, you have already lost. So, next, all 5 of you come up to help my brother complete his Super Saiyan God transformation. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of Son Goku, Vegeta, Son Gohan, Trunks, and Son Goten in the distance all changed. Helping Broly complete the Super Saiyan God transformation is not difficult for them. But at this moment, they are also subconsciously resisting it. For nothing else, after seeing the strength of Buppa, they can also feel that once Broly completes the transformation of Super Saiyan God, the strength is far from being comparable to them. Subconsciously, a trace of resistance appeared in Son Gohan's eyes. Why, you want to go back on it? Looking at this scene, Buppa's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he said with a cold expression, this king hates people who go back on their own. If you dare to go back on your word, then don't blame this king's men for ruthlessly sending all of you to hell. While speaking, Buppa's murderous aura swept out, directly covering Son Goku and others, including Bulma, Chi-Chi, Videl and others in the distance. Plop, thump. For a time, the sound of falling kept resounding. It can be seen that Bulma and the others all fell to the ground, each with a pale face, a frightened face, and trembling uncontrollably. Not good. 35. Seeing this, Son Goku and the others' faces changed drastically. Never expected Buppa to be so fierce. They just showed a hint of resistance, and the latter tried to destroy them all. For a moment, Son Goku said quickly, stop Buppa, we will now help Broly complete the transformation of Super Saiyan God. As soon as these words came out, Vegeta and others also reacted. Although he was unwilling, he had to make a choice at this moment, otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Immediately, Vegeta and others also said, we will act now, and please don't mess around. Buppa, willing to admit defeat, we will not backtrack. .0 for flowers 0. Seeing this, Buppa snorted disdainfully and restrained his murderous aura. I hope you can do this. Broly, let them help you transform in the past. Yes, sir. With a promise, Broly understood Buppa's thoughts, and immediately walked to the area where Son Goku and others were. Glancing at Son Goku and the others, Broly said coldly, let's start. 35. Hearing this, Son Goku sighed. Although not reconciled, but at this moment they have no choice. After looking at each other, Son Goku, Vegeta, Son Gohan, Trunks and Son Goten stepped forward. After surrounding Broly, the 5 Son Goku didn't hesitate, and immediately began to inject the power of the heart into Broly's body. For a time, Broly's chi started to go wild with the continuous injection of the power of the heart. Broly's breath began to soar rapidly, 100 trillion, 1000 trillion, 2000 trillion, 3000 trillion. In a moment, Broly's chi soared by 3000 trillion. At this moment, the crimson beam of light shot straight into the sky, and the vision reappeared, and Broly began to transform into Super Saiyan God. Ding! The battle power of the bound character Broly has been increased by 3000 trillion to trigger a tenfold return, and congratulations to the host for obtaining 3 Beijing battle power. The sound of the system prompts resounded, and Bupa felt a shock all over his body. Immediately afterwards, his own combat power soared rapidly, and as the basic combat power of the 3 capitals was absorbed, the 100-fold increase in the passive version of the mysterious state was also triggered. In an instant, the chi in Bupa began to soar again, 30 Jing, 300 Jing. After reaching the level of 300 Beijing, Bupa's chi stopped growing. The next second, Bupa's closed eyes opened, and he said, "System, check the personal information panel." Bupa, race, Saiyan, bloodline, medium passage, combat strength, 300 Beijing, transformation, anger, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4, Chuan Chao mode, Chuan Chao 2, ability, Kaioken, Final Flash, Time Flash, Dragon Fist. 7. Chapter 179 Incompatible Super Ace God. Extremely disappointed Broly. Good. After reading his own information, Bupa couldn't help but smile. The tenfold return of the system, plus the 100-fold increase in the mysterious state. The superimposed power of the two is simply invincible. 300 Beijing combat power. In this case, he can reach 3000 Jing when he is angry. If the Super 4 transformations are activated at full strength, then Bupa's combat power will reach the level of 120 Z. The most important thing is that Bupa also has Kaioken and Free Zodiac Sign. If he really goes all out, his combat power will exceed 7 and enter the stage of 8. Although the strength at this stage is not as good as Beerus, it is already comparable to Son Goku and Vegeta during the Audioverse conference. At this moment, a low roar came quietly. Looking at the reputation, it can be seen that Broly has successfully completed the transformation of the Super 127 Saiyan God. It can be seen that its red hair and red eyes exudes the power of divine brilliance, giving people the feeling of being extremely powerful. At this moment, Bupa's power directly increased from 3000 trillion to 180 Gao. It can be said that it has far surpassed Son Goku and Vegeta's Super Saiyan form, but it is only because the basic combat power is stronger. It's done. Finally transformed. After completing the transformation, Broly looked happy, and the whole person was quite excited. It has fully increased the basic combat power of 3000 trillion. This is really a huge gain for him, but he is not very satisfied with the increase of Super Saiyan God at the moment. After a little pondering, Broly said, "Then let me try whether the anger state in the Super 4 can stack with it." Having said that, Broly burst out again, ***. However, something unexpected happened. No matter how low Broly drank, he still couldn't complete the rage state, let alone the transformation of Super 4. "Can't you?" Seeing this situation, Bupa raised his brows. His expression was not very good looking, and said, "Sure enough, the way of Chaosai God is not suitable for Chuan Chao." 35. If you can't use the rage state, you can't use the super transfer mode, then the limit of this super race god can't be compared with the Super 4 state. Certainly not. At this moment, Broly opened his eyes, and a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. Chicken ribs. It's so tasteless. The so-called Super Saiyan God, except for the potential increase of the first transformation, has no meaning at all. At this moment, the disappointment in Broly's eyes could not be concealed. I thought that Super Saiyan could be superimposed with Super 4, Furious State, and even Quan Super Mode. But obviously, this is obviously not the power of a system, and it cannot be superimposed on each other at all. This, on the other hand, Son Goku, Vegeta and others were all dumbfounded at the moment. They all saw Broly's disgusting expression, and they heard it with their own ears. It is precisely because of this that at this moment their hearts have also set off a storm. The transformation of such a powerful super race god was actually so disgusted by the latter. It can be seen that for the legendary Super Saiyans such as Broly and Bupa, the Super 4 transformation is a stronger existence. However, Broly has also undergone a Super 4 transformation before, and in Son Goku's view, it is almost the same as the Super Race God. Why is the latter so dismissive? Subconsciously, Son Goku asked, "Broly, do you think that Super 4 transformation is stronger than Super Saiyan?" "Certainly." Casting a glance at Son Goku, Broly said indifferently, "This so-called Super Saiyan's power is draining too fast. Even if I stand in place and do nothing, I can clearly feel that my strength is constantly decreasing. On the contrary, there is almost no such thing in the Super 4 form, and as long as I am willing, I can even display the Super 4 as normal. And I can't get angry in this state, which also declares that Super Saiyan means nothing to me." After saying that, Broly took a step towards Bupa. At the moment, Son Goku and the others were like being struck by lightning, staring blankly at Broly who was leaving, and their hearts were filled with turbulent waves. They also understood what Broly said. The power consumed in the form of Super Saiyan is indeed extremely terrifying and intense. But they never imagined that the Super 4 transformation in Broly's mouth did not have such drawbacks, and it could even be similar to normal without consumption. Super Saiyan 4. Is this transformation really stronger than Super Saiyan? Subconsciously, Son Goku and Vegeta all fell into contemplation. Big brother. At this time, Broly came to Bupa's side and said with a sad expression, "The power of this super god is not very good and it's not compatible with our Chuan Chao bloodline. No wonder eldest brother, you told me not to care too much about his existence." Hearing this, Bupa woke up like a dream. Looking at Broly, who had a gloomy look in front of him, he immediately stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder. "It doesn't have to be this way. Although the super race god transformation is indeed not suitable for us, it also allows you to feel the effect of divine power in advance. Next, you follow Beerus to practice, and strive to master his gods of destruction power as soon as possible. As long as the chi in your body is transformed into the power of gods of destruction, then the existence of the same realm cannot be your opponent. Besides that, once you master the power of gods of destruction, you can go a step further in transforming as a super race god. But on the whole, this transformation is only a consumable. Unless you become a god, its existence is only a substitute and a guarantee in a last resort. Indeed, once Broly masters gods of destruction, he can transform into Super Saiyan God Blue. The increase of Super Saiyan Blue should not be inferior to the full power of Super 4, and it may even be stronger. Although Broly's future 0.7 road is based on the Super Bloodline, Super 4, and Super 4, but with one more Super Race God, you can still have the power to protect yourself if you encounter a situation in the future. "I know, bro." Nodding heavily, Broly breathed a sigh of relief at the moment. He was quite disappointed before, but with Bupa's enlightenment, he also understands that this is not a bad thing. Thinking of this, Broly looked at Beerus subconsciously and said, "Beerus, you said that if I learn from you, how long will it take me to learn gods of destruction?" "You?" Glancing at Broly, Beerus pondered a little. "It's just converting chi into divine power. If you practice well, you will be able to complete it in a few years. With my guidance, at most 3 years, at least 1 year, you can completely accomplish this step." Chapter 180 Brothers Separation. Bupa's new goal. 3 years at most. As little as a year. Nodding thoughtfully, Broly clasped his fists in a salute and said, "If so, then I will ask Lord Beerus for more advice in the future." 39. Broly understands that this gods of destruction power can only be taught by Beerus in front of him. And looking at Bupa's level of attention, he didn't dare to slack off, so it was necessary to have a good relationship with Beerus. "No problem." With a wave of his hand, Beerus said indifferently, "This is what I promised before. I, Beerus, am not the one who goes back on his word. However, this trip to Earth has already achieved my goal, and it's time to go back." Having said that, Beerus stood up from his seat and said, "Whis, get ready." "Yes, Lord Beerus." Hearing this, Whis also stood up and started to take out the food box to pack food, ready to leave the Earth and return to the gods of destruction world. Bupa. Seeing this, Beerus nodded with satisfaction, then looked at Bupa and said, "Are you going to the gods of destruction world with me, or does your brother come with me alone?" Gods of destruction world. Hearing this, Bupa frowned, and to be honest, his goal was to subdue 20 Son Goku and others in this universe. But in the current situation, it is obviously difficult for him to conquer the crowd. Therefore, it is not impossible to go to the world of gods of destruction. The main thing is that, if he remembers well, Son Goku and Vegeta will soon be going to the world of gods of destruction to practice. In addition, the gods of destruction Champo of the 6th universe will also come to fight Beerus. That's when the Super Dragon Ball comes on the scene. Bupa can take this opportunity to improve Broly and his own super bloodline. And many more. Suddenly, a flash of light flashed in Bupa's mind, and he secretly said in his heart, "Wampa Star." This universe's Broly seems to be still within Wampa. If I find him in advance and capture him, then, in an instant, Bupa's breathing quickened. The Broly of the 7th universe is a new version of Broly, and its bloodline is at least first class, or top-notch. Relying on the state of anger to play Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan to play Super Blue, and Quan Super Mode even suppressed Super Blue Vegeta. Although Broly's strength is not enough at this time, once it breaks out completely, its own strength will soar rapidly, and then, no need. As soon as he thought of this, Bupa said immediately, "I will send Broly to the world of gods of destruction with you. I have one more thing to do, and I will go to the gods of destruction world to find you after I finish this thing. At that time, I also hope to ask Beerus-sama for a lesson or two." "It is good." Hearing this, Beerus' eyes flashed, and he immediately said, "Then I'll wait for you to come to the gods of destruction world to fight with me." At this moment, Beerus was quite excited and looking forward to it. He could feel that Bupa was definitely stronger than the previous Gogeta. This also means that the latter has the power to fight against him, so he might be able to make him even more excited. Thinking of this, Beerus immediately said, "Whis, are you ready?" "Ready, Lord Beerus." 9. Nodding his head, Whis picked up the lunchbox and said, "Lord Beerus, are you leaving now?" Nodding, Beerus looked at Broly and said, "Broly, come and leave with us." Brother." Hearing this, Broly looked at Bupa subconsciously, opened his mouth several times before he stopped. "Go, Broly." In this regard, Bupa understood what Broly was thinking, and immediately waved his hand and said, "You go to the Gods of Destruction world first, and I will come to you after I finish my business." "It is good." Nodding, Broly didn't bother, and walked to the area beside Beerus. The next second, Whis waved his scepter. With the emergence of colorful beams, Beerus, Broly and Whis disappeared from the yacht directly. "Is this gone?" "This is leaving." Watching this scene blankly, the expressions of Son Goku and others on the deck became complicated for a while. Beerus is gone. It means that this crisis on Earth is over. But it is precisely because of this that Son Goku and others seem to be in a different world at the moment, and even worry about gains and losses. For nothing else, it is because Beerus they are too strong. Whether it is Beerus, Broly, or Bupa in front of them, their strength is too strong, even far beyond the conceivable limit of Son Goku and others. Beerus is Gods of Destruction, that is the strongest god in the universe. Son Goku and others can also accept failure. But what about Bupa and Broly? Although it is the legendary Super Saiyan, it is stronger than them in a sense. But this strength is not a star and a half, it is completely a gap like a moat. How can they accept it? Bupa. Subconsciously, Son Goku said, "I want to ask, how strong is your strength? Is there any difference between the legendary Super Saiyan and us ordinary Saiyan? And that Super Saiyan 4, is it really stronger than Super Saiyan God?" As soon as these words came out, Son Goku and others also looked at Bupa with curiosity and anticipation in their eyes. Even Vegeta was looking straight at Bupa at the moment. Although not willing to fail, Vegeta also understands that she is really not Bupa's opponent. 127. Even the gap between the two sides is extremely huge, so he is eager to know what is going on in these situations. Son Goku. Looking at Son Goku in front of him, Bupa's eyes flashed. To be honest, for the 7th universe Son Goku, his senses are not very good. It's not that the latter is keen to fight, after all, this is a common problem with Saiyan. However, Son Goku caused the whole universe meeting for the battle, and even acted haphazardly without knowing the importance. If it weren't for the fact that Son Goku was the protagonist, I'd probably have died many times. Although Son Goku was forcibly cleaned up after the All-Universe Conference, in the final analysis, he made a wish to restore all universes on the 17th, but it also opened Pandora's box. After all, in addition to the 7 universes that were eliminated by Zeno at the All-Universe Conference, there are also 6 universes that were eliminated by Zeno a long time ago. Although he didn't recognize each other very much in his heart, Bupa didn't refuse at this moment. Not for anything else, because he is very clear about his purpose and goal, that is, to bring all the guys in front of him under his command. Only Son Goku, Vegeta and others who are the protagonists and supporting roles can refresh special rewards to make themselves stronger. Thinking of this, Bupa said immediately, Super Saiyan's transformation is not weak, in a sense, it is stronger than Super Saiyan 4. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this. And join my Patreon if you want to support me, where you can find advanced audiobooks that hasn't been uploaded on YouTube till now. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.